Hey there, Hetty here. Since last we spoke, I've experienced many joys and much excitement. A lot that's been fulfilling, change, growth. For the most part, my life's been consumed with wonderful and challenging pursuits. Self-flagellating Nimrod that I am, I'm wrapping up yet another degree, so that's been chief among them. I've got a little dissertation writing and defending to do, and then I'm done. Again, honestly, for the last time. I'm not working on that right now, though. I am instead in the process of grieving the loss of the person I loved most in this world. It was 9 months from diagnosis to death. In 2 weeks, it will have been a year since we found out that their illness could maybe be slowed, but couldn't be stopped. It didn't slow down much. For the first 8 weeks after they passed, I was sleeping twice as long as my usual 6.5 to 7 hours, and working my way up to reinstituting the bare bones of daily living. I mostly failed. Things I used to do easily became cognitively impossible. It's only been a couple weeks since my brain started to come back online and I've started to do better. I have a ways to go. And I'm doing my best not to rush the process. And so I'm trying to relegate the nagging voice telling me I ought to start doing real work again, back in the timeout corner. But gently, I'm making my way out of the worst of it. I'm demonstrably becoming more and more capable, even desirous of doing things, seeing people, thinking about topics more complex than what cheese to grate on my pasta. Actually, grate is a misnomer. The answer is goat cheese. Goat cheese is the best cheese to put in a red sauce. Anyway, and I'm starting again to reach toward my practice in the divine. When I stopped posting to YouTube, it wasn't because I'd suddenly given up on my practice. It was simply that I had achieved a really big goal, and that then took up all the time and effort I had to spare in the best of ways. So I didn't have anything left to invest in writing, recording, and bumblefucking my way to a half-decent background picture for a YouTube video. I share this because I, at least, typically wonder what happened to those favorite witchy YouTubers who suddenly disappear. And for whatever reason, I'm biased towards assuming that they've stopped practicing, although, of course I recognize that that's a bit like showing up at your local coffee joint, to find that your favorite barista isn't there and then assuming they must have retired. I'm in my 40s now, which still feels really strange to say, but I expect 40s will rock. We'll see. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to value my spirituality for the rest of my life. So, yeah, no, I didn't give it up. I didn't outgrow my craft, but with everything that was occurring over the past year, I didn't have the bandwidth to even engage with my practice in any meaningful sense. I think a lot of that is because I couldn't bring myself to engage with a goddess from whom I just knew I would beg the impossible, only to feel betrayed and disgusted when doing so didn't hold back death. And the things I might have asked for and actually received, less pain, more strength, I didn't want those. In a lot of ways, I still don't. I want to keep hurting for now. I want the stabbing pain to gradually become an ache, the way it does when you've broken your leg and you're learning to walk again. I want both to hurt and to slowly start reclaiming my place among the living. I think that's my path forward. And I'm just now starting to take a few furtive first steps toward what I haven't lost. If you're the sort that listens to back catalogs, you may remember that I've already done a spiel on reconnecting with one's practice after a difficult life event. I called it Respecking Your Spiritual Build When Life Hands You Lemon-Shaped Grenades, because I'm hilarious. I just dug it up and reread it the other day. I think it's held up well and still applies, so I'm making use of it again. I'm not going to rehash it or the fundamental tenets, beliefs, skills, etc. of my long-standing practice here. I have a considerable catalog of videos discussing various of these aspects in depth. So if there's something I mentioned today or at any hypothetical point in the future that you want more information about, feel free to go spelunking for clarification. All I'm going to do today then is tell you where I am in my spiritual practice right now, where I'm starting, not as a new witch, but as an old one who's accrued a deep wound. And if it feels right moving forward, I'll talk about where it goes. I've put away the bells and whistles. My altar and the ritual components I'm restarting with are stripped down to the bare bones. 2 candles, a copper bowl of red sand, stones, incense. Yes, I'm pretty sure I've talked about the sand and stones in one or more videos. I don't recall what aspects or how many of their uses I may have shared, but they're my starting point because they're extremely versatile and well established in my practice. Other long practiced components I'm starting with are my circle casting, words I've been reciting for about a decade now, and the evocation of my matron deity, ditto. And then for now, I'm just speaking to my matron, speaking to whatever part of the person I lost still remains, hoping that the 1,000th time I tell them I love them will reach farther somehow than the previous 999. This is bookended by likewise practiced words, although I've made some changes to my farewells to better reflect my current needs and what I'm asking of the goddess I work with. Very gingerly, I'm edging toward connecting more directly with the divine and with aspects of self that have lain dormant, or at least muzzled. I expect it'll be a progression from more mundane approaches to the use of altered states and path working. I guess we'll see what ends up feeling right. I'm sure I'll be surprised along the way. That's always been a given in my practice. I'm also sure I have more crying to do and that a good chunk of it will occur in circle because, well, that's the byproduct of opening up and reaching deep. We humans often struggle to do that because we fear what we'll find or what we won't find. And we fear that if we come apart, we'll never be able to glue ourselves back together. I'm pretty sure, though, that whatever I find, I'll be able to pick up the pieces. Yeah, no, nobody's ever accused me of being underconfident, but, I don't think that belief is based in arrogance, but on experience, training, and I'd say, a decent chunk of self-awareness, and a long craft built around daring to do the scary things and consistently benefiting from them. That doesn't mean I'm not still afraid of the pain this process will entail. Of course I am. It's gonna fucking blow, I'm sure, in some ways. But hurt isn't the same as harm, and I'm hurting anyway. I'd rather put it to good use. Stripping my practice down, gradually reintroducing more intensive approaches serves two functions then. First, it helps get back into the swing of things, rebuild that muscle memory. I can't remember if I ever got around to recording a podcast about use of language, poetry, and repetition in my craft. Maybe one of you will recall, but in short, I hold the conviction that there's inherent power in long-standing ritual and repetition. The longer I use the same words for the same purposes, the more power I feel they accrue. They're like sponges that have soaked up years and years of experiential association, and therefore potency. The words themselves become cues to facilitate access to altered states of mind, the perceptual shifts I feel encircle. This is yet again a form of conditioning that serves as a shortcut back to connection with the divine, or whatever the words are supposed to be tied to. Basically, I'm saying that most magic words, scare quotes, don't typically start as that. They become it. Maybe I don't know, if I haven't done an essay on this, I actually think it would probably be a worthwhile one, so we'll see. Tell me if I have, if I can't find it myself. Anyway, the second function of stripping down to basics and gradually deepening what I'm doing with more intensive approaches, let's say, is that this allows me to sort of titrate my experience to some extent. It's like sticking your toe in the water first and then easing up to your knees, which, as I was writing this, I realized there's a really strong argument to be made for just jumping in the water and getting the whole thing over with as quickly as possible. And actually, that's my preference. The whole wading into water always struck me as pretty masochistic. So it's not a perfect metaphor. And it's not a perfect metaphor because in the end, I don't think this is a process that benefits from being rushed. The difference between getting back into my practice versus into a lake is that in the former's case, avoiding discomfort is not the primary goal. There are valuable things to be learned and experienced and processed and changed at every fathom along the way. Foremost among my aspirations for my current practice is rebuilding my ability to listen and to feel. I clapped my hands over my spiritual ears this past year because bluntly, turning into it felt like too much. I'm not even sure if I would have had the capacity if I'd wanted to. I think that I'm just now beginning to feel able to approach the thoughts, emotions, and the intimacy that engaging with the divine entails for me. To pay attention to the ways my dynamic with my matron changed and was burdened by my loss. Relationships, whether peer-to-peer or human-to-divine, are co-created, to my mind. And I'd argue that this applies whether you're a hard polytheist or like strictly chaotic in your views about belief. Relationships change in response to changes within the individuals involved, and each individual's reaction to the other changes in response in an ongoing feedback loop. So just as it's the case among loved ones, taking time to assess and express what happened within the individual and how that impacted the relationship is an important part of healing and reconnecting. I think that applies in my practice anyway. I expect it'll be rough and involve tears and snot, including in circle. probably be wise to keep some Kleenex on the altar, although ideally not too close to the candles. But for the first time in a long time, I'm finding myself wanting to reach out to my matron again, which means I'm ready. So here I go. And here I drag those of you willing to join the road trip along. I'm not going to make any promises about how or when I'll upload something new because, frankly, I've demonstrated flakiness in better times. And let's be clear, I'm going to have more precipitous downturns on the path forward. That's just how grief works. Those of you who have recently listened to other videos will probably detect that this is not being edited at all. So it's going to be more stop and start. There's going to be more of that umming. I'll probably say like a lot more often than I have in the past because I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. But yeah, I feel like on this journey of reconnection, which tube holds its own special spot. I've just recently started catching up on the channels and people that I used to listen to regularly. Some of you have taken down a lot of your back catalogs. Which is fine, but I miss them. The parasocial warm and fuzzies are a really nice place to be right now. I also logged into my own channel for the first time in a couple of years and was met with some truly beautiful comments from people, including those who'd found my videos after I'd stopped uploading. I'm weirdly partial to being chided by people for not uploading. I find it, charming. And as I was reading through these comments, I found myself thinking, these are exactly the sort of people I'd hoped might be out there somewhere and appreciate my niche little channel back in the day when I started all of this. These are the people that right now they feel like community, even though I've been sort of skulking in the shadows. And so whatever comes, I want to expressly say thank you to those people. Anyway, I hope you found value in popping by, and I wish you wonderful things, even in the midst of sorrow.